Bermuda Triangle, the mystery that never existed. There's a place in the Atlantic Ocean that has terrified people for generations. A mysterious triangle of water stretching between Florida, Bermuda, and Puerto Rico. According to countless stories, ships have vanished here without a trace. Planes have disappeared from the sky. Crews have sent strange final messages, and in some cases, nothing was ever found. No wreckage, no bodies, sometimes not even a clear explanation. But here's the strange part. The United States government doesn't officially recognize the Bermuda Triangle as a geographical region. There are no official boundaries, no special warning signs. And ships crossing the area aren't charged higher insurance premiums, simply because they're entering the so-called triangle. So how did an ordinary part of the Atlantic become known as one of the greatest mysteries on Earth? And more importantly, is the Bermuda Triangle actually mysterious? Welcome to Hidden Mystery. Today, we're going beyond the legends and looking at the history, famous disappearances, scientific theories, and the actual statistics behind the Bermuda Triangle. Because the truth is much more interesting than the myth. The first mystery to understand the Bermuda Triangle, we have to travel all the way back to 1492. Christopher Columbus was sailing west across the Atlantic, searching for a route toward Asia. Navigation at the time was extremely difficult. There was no GPS, no satellite weather information, no radar, and no modern maps of the ocean.
The Atlantic was a
During his
merciless
journey, Columbus recorded several strange observations. His compass appeared to behave unusually.
In 1918,
he also described unusual lights on the horizon. And at one point, he reported seeing something resembling a strange flickering light in the distance. Imagine being a sailor in the 15th century. You're thousands of miles from home. The ocean stretches endlessly in every direction. And suddenly, the one instrument you depend on appears to be giving you the wrong information. It would have been terrifying, but today we have much more reasonable explanations. The strange light may have been caused by bioluminescent organisms in the ocean. And the compass problem can be explained by something called magnetic declination.
This can't be right.
True north and
the
magnetic north
spinning.
aren't always the same. The difference changes depending on your location. So what seemed supernatural centuries ago can often be explained by basic science, but the stories were only beginning. The ghost ship story, one of the most famous stories connected to the Bermuda Triangle, involves a ship called the Ellen Austin. According to the legend, the ship encountered another vessel drifting through the ocean.
The compass is spinning.
There was something incredibly strange about it. The ship appeared to be completely abandoned. Yet it was still seaworthy. The captain supposedly sent some crew members aboard to bring the mysterious vessel back. Then a storm separated the two ships. When the ships were finally reunited, the crew members who had boarded the abandoned vessel were reportedly missing. Another group was sent to investigate. And then, according to the story, the mysterious ship disappeared again. It sounds like something straight out of a horror movie, but there's a major problem. Historical records don't clearly support the dramatic version of this story. Over time, the details appear to have changed as the story was repeated. And that is one of the most important things to understand about the Bermuda Triangle. Sometimes the original event is real, but the legend becomes much bigger than the evidence. The disappearance of USS Cyclops, but not every mystery is fictional. In March 1918, a massive American cargo ship called USS Cyclops disappeared. The ship was enormous, more than 500 feet long. It was carrying hundreds of people and thousands of tons of manganese ore. After leaving South America, the ship eventually headed toward Baltimore. Then nothing. No confirmed distress call. No confirmed wreckage, and no clear explanation for exactly what happened. More than 300 people disappeared with the vessel. It remains one of the largest non-combat losses of life in U.S. naval history. At the time, there was no way to know what had happened, and that uncertainty helped fuel the legend. But historians have proposed far more ordinary possibilities. The vessel was heavily loaded. There were concerns about its mechanical condition, and it was traveling through waters where severe weather could develop quickly.
I'm lost in the storm.
A sudden storm, structural problems, or flooding could potentially have sent the ship to the bottom before a distress signal could be transmitted. A terrifying possibility, but not a supernatural one. And then came the event that would make the Bermuda Triangle famous around the world. Flight 19, December 5th, 1945. 5 military aircraft took off from Florida on what was supposed to be a routine training mission. There were 14 men aboard the 5 planes. The aircraft were TBM Avenger torpedo bombers. The mission should have been relatively straightforward, but approximately an hour and a half into the flight, something started going wrong.
These
The
silent
lead
ruins
pilot
challenge our
reported problems
understanding of
determining
history.
their position.
Who-
The weather began
The Gulf Stream
deteriorating.
moves with
Radio
immense
communication
force.
became
It carries
increasingly
vast
difficult,
amounts of debris
and the
at
flight
incredible
appeared to become
speeds.
disoriented.
Sinking
The pilots
in the end,
believed they were
there are
somewhere
no
near the Florida
supernatural
Keys,
forces at
but
work
later
here.
analysis
Only the
suggested they may
vast,
actually have been much
indifferent
farther
power of
east.
nature itself.
That difference was critical. If they were already east of the Bahamas, flying in the direction they believed would take them toward Florida could actually take them deeper into the Atlantic. The situation became worse as daylight disappeared. Fuel was running low, weather conditions were deteriorating, and the pilots were struggling to determine their exact position. Eventually, contact with the aircraft was lost. All 5 planes disappeared, then something even stranger happened. A rescue aircraft was sent to search for them. It also disappeared. Suddenly, the story became almost impossible to ignore. 6 aircraft, dozens of people, and virtually no physical evidence. The mystery exploded. But later investigations suggested a much more human explanation. Navigation errors, bad weather, limited technology, fuel exhaustion, and a chain reaction of decisions made under extreme pressure. Sometimes a disaster doesn't require one huge mistake. Sometimes several small mistakes happen at exactly the wrong time. Where did the name come from? Interestingly, people weren't always calling this area the Bermuda Triangle. The name became popular during the 20th century after writers began connecting several different disappearances and presenting them as evidence of a mysterious geographical phenomenon. The idea spread quickly, and then books made the legend even bigger. Suddenly, people weren't just talking about storms and navigation problems, they were talking about aliens, Atlantis, time travel, magnetic forces, parallel dimensions, and even portals to other worlds. The Bermuda Triangle had transformed from a collection of unexplained incidents into a global mythology. Hollywood helped too. Movies and television programs presented the disappearances as evidence that something extraordinary might be hiding beneath the Atlantic. And once an idea becomes part of popular culture, separating fact from fiction becomes incredibly difficult. But what does science say? Let's start with the compass. One of the oldest parts of the legend is the idea that compasses behave strangely inside the Bermuda Triangle. There is some truth behind the confusion. A compass points toward magnetic north, not necessarily geographic north. The difference between these two directions is called magnetic declination, and it changes over time and location. In the past, navigators could potentially become confused if they didn't properly account for it, but there is nothing supernatural about this. It's normal physics. The Gulf Stream, then there's the Gulf Stream. This powerful ocean current moves through the western Atlantic. It can carry floating objects enormous distances. So if a ship sinks in an area influenced by strong currents, wreckage can quickly move away from the original location. By the time search teams arrive, debris may already be scattered across a huge area. This can make a disappearance appear much more mysterious than it actually was. The ocean is enormous. Finding a wreck in thousands of square miles of water isn't easy. What about methane explosions? One of the more dramatic theories involves methane trapped beneath the ocean floor. Under certain geological conditions, methane can escape from underwater deposits. Some scientists have studied enormous underwater craters created by gas releases in other parts of the world. This led to speculation that a massive methane release could theoretically reduce water density and affect a ship's buoyancy. It sounds terrifying, but there is an important distinction. Methane releases are real. The claim that methane explosions caused the famous Bermuda Triangle disappearances is not established. There is no solid evidence proving that this phenomenon was responsible for the major incidents associated with the legend, so it remains a theory, not a confirmed explanation. The numbers tell a different story. Now we reach the most interesting part. What happens when we stop looking at the most dramatic stories and start looking at statistics? The Bermuda Triangle suddenly becomes much less mysterious. The region has extremely heavy maritime and air traffic. It experiences hurricanes and powerful storms. It contains shallow reefs and complicated waters around the Bahamas, and thousands of vessels and aircraft have passed through the area over the decades. Yet there is no convincing evidence that ships or aircraft disappear there at a significantly higher rate than would be expected for such a busy and sometimes dangerous region. In other words, the triangle doesn't appear to have a supernatural disappearance rate. In fact, some analyses have found casualty rates that are roughly proportional to the amount of traffic passing through the region. That's a very important detail. Because if the Bermuda Triangle were truly responsible for extraordinary numbers of unexplained disappearances, we would expect modern data to reveal an unusually high rate. It doesn't. So why does the legend survive? This is where the mystery becomes psychological. Human beings hate uncertainty. When something disappears and we don't immediately know why, our brains naturally search for an explanation. And the more dramatic the explanation, the more memorable the story becomes. A ship sinks during a storm? That's unfortunate. A ship disappears because of an interdimensional portal? That's a story people remember. A pilot becomes disoriented and runs out of fuel. Sad but understandable. 5 aircraft vanish into an unexplained supernatural zone. Now you have a legend. And once enough stories are collected together, something strange happens. The stories begin supporting one another. Incidents that happened hundreds of miles apart can become part of the same narrative. Cases with ordinary explanations can be presented alongside genuinely unexplained cases, and stories that changed over decades can eventually be treated as historical fact. The mystery grows not necessarily because the evidence grows, but because the story grows. The real danger: none of this means the Bermuda Triangle is completely harmless. The region can be dangerous. Hurricanes can develop rapidly, weather conditions can change, the Gulf Stream is powerful. The Bahamas contain extensive shallow water areas and reefs. And the Atlantic Ocean can become extremely unforgiving when something goes wrong. People really did die there, ships really did sink, aircraft really did disappear, the tragedy was real. What's questionable is the supernatural explanation attached to those tragedies. The final answer: so, does the Bermuda Triangle exist, as a popular name for a region of the Atlantic? Absolutely. As an officially recognized geographical location with fixed boundaries. Number: does it have a mysterious force that pulls ships and aircraft into another dimension? There is no credible evidence for that. Aliens? No convincing evidence. Atlantis? No. Time portals? Again, no evidence. What we do have is something much less exciting but much more believable. Powerful storms, strong ocean currents, difficult navigation, mechanical failures, human mistakes, limited technology, and stories that became increasingly exaggerated as they were retold. The Bermuda Triangle may not be a supernatural mystery, but the story of how we created the mystery is fascinating. For centuries, humans looked at a huge, dangerous, unpredictable ocean and tried to explain what they couldn't understand. We filled the gaps with monsters, aliens, lost civilizations, strange forces, and portals to other worlds. And eventually, we created one of the greatest legends in modern history. Maybe the most mysterious thing about the Bermuda Triangle isn't what's hiding beneath the water. Maybe it's what happens inside the human imagination when we don't have an answer. This is Hidden Mystery. Stay curious, because sometimes the truth isn't hiding in another dimension. It's hiding behind the story we've been told. And until next time, keep questioning everything.